Over the weekend, displaced Palestinians made their journey to the neighborhoods they're from in the Gaza Strip with the hope that they would find their homes in somewhat livable conditions. But as you can see from this video, that wasn't the case for the vast majority of Palestinians. Israel, of course, razed much of the Gaza Strip, and this type of destruction is going to be incredibly costly to reconstruct and will take a very long time to reconstruct. Now, Israeli forces are said to have dropped more explosives on Gaza Strip, which is what, a 5 square mile strip of land, than the amount of explosive dropped on London, Dresden, and Hamburg combined in the Second World War.
I have one other amazing fact for you guys. Israel dropped the equivalent of about 6 atomic bombs on Gaza. So that's the size of the bombs dropped on Hiroshima, based on kilotons dropped in Gaza, the equivalent of about 6 nuclear bombs in Gaza. So Randy Fine got his wish. They were basically nuked, but through a great number of bombs, and that's why you're seeing the mass destruction there. And obviously that is not targeted, that is collective punishment. That is why the government of Israel are literal terrorists.
So let's hear from the Palestinians who returned to their neighborhoods and discuss what they found.
Entire families erased, entire cities wiped out.
We've been displaced for 2 years, living on the sidewalks with no shelter and nowhere to save. I just want to reach my home. God willing, things will be better. I'm happy about the truce and peace, even though I'm a mother of a son and a daughter who were killed, and I grieve for them deeply.
Fida Haraz is hoping to find her home, but she can't even tell where her street once was.
I'm walking in the street, but I don't know where to go. I don't know where the crossroads are or where my home is. A house of multiple floors, but nothing is left.
I did not find our home, or our neighbor's home, or our relative's home. All the relatives that near me no longer have homes. All is gone. Everything was destroyed. There are no homes or life.
When I was told in the morning that my home was gone, I didn't know what to do. I was already crying for my siblings that I lost. How can I come back and not find them waiting for me?
Just absolutely devastating. Just to clarify, Gaza is 141 square miles long, I believe, and 5 square miles wide. So I just wanted to correct that error I made earlier. Now, more than 500,000 Palestinians have returned to Gaza City since the ceasefire went into effect to find total devastation. So the United Nations Satellite Center estimated that 83% of all structures in Gaza City had been destroyed or had some damage by late September. So that's Gaza City. The number jumps up to 93% when it comes to residential buildings and structures throughout the Gaza Strip. So around 2 million Palestinians in Gaza are now homeless thanks to 2 straight years of IDF terrorism. Now, most of Gaza's crops and vegetation have also been destroyed. 97% of tree crops, 95% of shrubs, and 82% of annual crops are gone. Just complete annihilation in the Gaza Strip. Gazan Shireen Abul Yakani says some 61 million tons of debris I'm sorry, this is from Reuters. 61 million tons of debris will need to be cleared across the territory, the equivalent of 25 Eiffel Towers by volume, according to the UN. This is the UN's Environment Program. And according to estimates by the World Bank, rebuilding Gaza will cost more than $50 billion. Now, we, the American taxpayers, have bankrolled the destruction in Gaza, and it remains to be seen how much we are going to be expected to pay for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. But for those who survived Israel's aggression and genocide, those people actually end up being the more fortunate ones in this entire scenario in the Gaza Strip, because nearly 68,000 Palestinians have been killed in the Strip. As of Sunday, the health ministry's violent death toll has reached 67,806, and the number of wounded has reached 170,066, meaning at a minimum, 237,872 Palestinians have been killed or injured in Gaza following the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. the figure represents more than 10% of Gaza's pre-war population of 2.3 million. But even that is expected to be an undercount, and I'll tell you why, because guess what? Some bodies have already been recovered from under the rubble now that a ceasefire is in effect. But wait till I tell you just how many Palestinians remain missing and are presumed dead. Before I do that, Cenk, any thoughts?
Yeah. So as they were leaving, they started setting the place on fire. Of course they did, because they're terrorists. So the IDF, if they didn't set the place on fire, they'd leave messages for the Palestinians who came back to their homes. Things like, enjoy sluts, and we'll be back. So just to further terrorize the innocent civilian population, because they're the IDF, they're the world's largest terrorist organization. So they lit the sewage plant on fire so that more disease would spread, so that more young children would die from that disease. Why? Because they're the IDF, the world's largest terrorist organization, and we fund them. We give them money to be terrorists like that.
Yeah.
And now, will Israel be forced to pay the $50 billion in damage they did? Of course not. They never pay for their own crimes. They never pay for anything, right? Second of all, if they had to pay anything back, they would just say, we're not gonna pay it. Hey, America, our errand boys, give us money. Shut up, you anti-Semites. You're all hateful bigots unless you hand your wallets over. Let's go, America, give me your wallets. Now you're paying for this, okay? Because we already paid for the genocide. We already spent $21 billion in the middle of the genocide. Normally we give them $4 billion a year. Why? No one ever explains it other than special ally. I don't know what that is other than propaganda. And they say, no, you owe us. Not only you owe us $4 billion a year, now you owe us $21 billion for the genocide. And the cleanup, the $50 billion cleanup, we are not doing it at all, okay? It's our job to murder and destroy. It's not our job to clean up. And if anybody's gonna clean up, Americans, let's go, you anti-Semites. Hurry up, give me the money and get to work, okay? And 200 already sent to Israel, and God knows how many more will be sent later, because we don't have American sovereignty. We have Israel running this country.
Yeah, we do. Now keep in mind again that the death toll figures are considered an undercount. There have been several studies showing that there is an undercount. For instance, there are some studies showing that the undercount is by as much as 40%, which is insane. And if that is proven after all the bodies are recovered from under the rubble, that would mean that close to 100,000 Palestinians were killed by the Israelis. Now, the estimate also, keep this in mind, doesn't factor in deaths caused by the Israeli siege due to starvation, disease, the destruction of Gaza's healthcare infrastructure, and other factors, figures that could take years to determine. Now, when it comes to the missing Palestinians, right now, of the missing Palestinians that we know of, there are about 10,000, and they are presumed to be dead, buried under the rubble. On Saturday, 116 bodies were recovered, and on Sunday, 117 bodies were recovered. But the recovery process is taking a long time, partly because they don't have the heavy machinery necessary to help them dig under the rubble. So they're hoping that Israel will allow that type of machinery to come in to assist with the recovery efforts. It remains to be seen whether Israel will allow that to happen. For now, they're using pickaxes and their bare hands in order to dig and try to find the remains of family members under the rubble. Now, on top of that, the debris is full of unexploded bombs and ordnances. So today there was a story about Palestinian children getting injured as a result of one of those unexploded bombs going off. Khalid al-Ayubi, who is a civil defense chief for northern Gaza, told The Guardian that at first we are focusing on collecting the corpses lying in the streets to preserve what remains of them, especially with the presence of stray dogs that have been attacking the bodies. Dr. Mohammed al-Mugir, who is the director of the Humanitarian Support and International Cooperation at the Gaza Civil Defense Agency, says that if Israel allows for the heavy equipment to enter the strip, recovering all missing 10,000 bodies that we know of will take 6 months.
Yeah, all right, so at least 10,000.
If Russia did this, let's just talk about that. Let's talk about if Russia did this. Wall-to-wall coverage.
Well, we
might drop a nuke on Russia if they did this.
Yeah, and so By the way, Israel has killed far more journalists, far more human rights workers, far more civilians than Russia has in Ukraine, and in a much, much smaller area, right? So now, it's interesting that you say that, Anna, because the first thing I was gonna ask you guys to do is imagine if the roles were reversed. That the Palestinians had killed so many Israelis that the Israelis were worried that the dogs were gonna eat the dead bodies in the streets. And the Palestinians wouldn't let the Israelis have food or aid or any equipment to dig out their dead. And the Israelis had to remove the rubble by hand to recover their dead Jewish relatives, okay? There would be what? It'd be nonstop talk, right? Wall-to-wall coverage forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. There would be movie after movie after movie after movie about never again, never again, never again. And there should be, because that's horrific. What's happened to Gaza is horrific, and if it happened to Israelis, it would be equally horrific. And there should be movie after movie. But it happens to the Palestinians. American media barely cares. The 20 Israelis have returned. The 20 actual human beings. Okay, well, on the last day, how many people were killed? 91 about?
Yeah.
So 91 Palestinians killed on the last day of bombing, even after Trump said to stop bombing?
According to ABC News.
According to ABC News. 91 higher than 20, right? But that was just an average day. Who cares? They're just Palestinians. They're subhuman. Murder, 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 murder all of them you want. And the dogs are eating them in the streets. Who cares? Because American media got you to believe that Palestinians are the terrorists. And they're the savages. And they're the terrible people. And they're the violent people. So any violence Israel does to them, they had it coming. It was their fault.
By the way, now that the ceasefire is in effect, Israel says, we're not going to engage in any offensive military operations, only defensive. And so they bombed a school for blind children in Gaza.
Of course they did, because they're sick terrorists. And is that going to lead the news today on cable news?
The only reason why I know about it is because independent news covered it.
Of course, so they're going to bury it.
Yeah.
Because they don't do the news. They do propaganda for all the donors, including Israel. So it's inconvenient for the donors that Israel happens to be run by a bunch of sick terrorists. And they're mauling and massacring people and blind children and letting Palestinians be eaten in the streets by dogs. But they're only Palestinians. So the beloved Israelis must never be criticized, okay? I'm going to ignore that for here to eternity. I don't care what names you call us. So they say, oh my God, of the hostages that were deceased, 4 were returned, but there's another 24, and they're having trouble finding the bodies. Well, they're having trouble finding 10 to 40,000 Palestinian bodies. But I know they're just subhuman Palestinians. So that 40,000 is irrelevant. The only people that matters, the Israelis. Where are the Israelis? Where are the humans? Where are the humans? Okay, so look at this. 24 we're worried about, and of course I want them returned. On the first day, 116 bodies were recovered, Palestinian bodies. I'm sorry, only Palestinians though. And then on the second day, on Sunday, 117 were recovered. But tens of thousands more to go. But American media and American politicians couldn't care less about them. But the beloved, most important, superior Israelis, 20 of them have been returned, but there's still some dead ones there. Even a dead Israeli is worth 10,000 alive Palestinians, according to our sick, disgusting mainstream media. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.